Metamorphosis is a 2019 Korean horror film called Byeonshin, which I'm sure I've mangled that, but I believe that is the way it's pronounced, Byeonshin. It's about a priest who performs exorcisms and has a bad experience and leaves the exorcist game behind. Unfortunately, his family comes down with a demon problem, and so that sort of forces him out of retirement to come and help them. Uh, this movie is, it's funny because when you go into exorcism movies, or at least I do, and I think about exorcist movies, there's so many out there. There's a very clear pattern that a lot of these kind of go along. And so going into a movie about exorcisms, I kind of expected this to kind of go along this very similar pattern. This one, to its credit, does not. That doesn't necessarily mean it's great, but I at least give it credit for some interesting ideas. One of the things in this movie is it posits a world where exorcisms are apparently happening all the time. Apparently, exorcisms are so common in Korea and around the world that this priest not only performs them constantly, but he also has a classroom where he teaches students, like kids, how to do exorcisms. Like, it's so prevalent in this world that they're establishing that he has to have a class that people enjoy. So much so that when he leaves the priesthood, or tries to leave the priesthood and give the whole world up, his father, bishop, I guess, or the diocese, asks him to at least finish his student studies because they like the class so much. It is very, very strange. And so it kind of gives almost this weird Constantine kind of vibe where he's a priest, but he's also a superhero of sorts. It's a weird merging of things that forces the movie to kind of go in a strange direction. And I'll say this, and because it's hard for me to talk about this movie without getting into some spoilers and some spoiler events that happen. So I'll sum the movie up and just say it is not exactly, if you're looking to go into a quote unquote exorcism movie, it does not follow the same tried and true beats of, say, like a Conjuring movie or an Insidious movie. If you're looking for a really creepy ghost story kind of thing, you'll get that in the first part of the movie, but then very quickly it devolves into a much different kind of movie that has a little bit more actiony stuff, has a little bit more, I want to say, comic booky style than a traditional movie of that sort. So I didn't love it, but it really comes down to what you're looking for. So that said, everything from here is, I'm just gonna, if there's spoilers, I'm just gonna kind of say it. So fair warning. So the movie opens with the priest giving an exorcism, which immediately sets the tone that this is not an unusual experience. Like, it seems like he knows what he's doing. It seems like he's done this a million times, and he's sort of going through the motions when things happen and it causes a death in the person that he is trying to exorcise the demon from. And because of that, it brings shame to him and his name. And for reasons that are a little murky, and maybe it's just because I don't understand the Korean culture as much, but because of this, because his name has kind of gotten sullied a bit, his brother, sister-in-law, and family, kids, 3 kids, they feel it's necessary to move out of the city and move into a different home. I don't necessarily know why they're moving into a different home, because it doesn't really seem to have an effect on the story in any way. That is a trope in lots of different horror movies, especially a lot of different ghost story movies and exorcism movies, where it's somebody or a family moving into a new home. I mean, the amount of times a horror movie has at the beginning of the movie, people moving into a new house is gotta be very high on the percentage scale. The reason why they're haunted by this demon, by this spirit or ghost, that's the other thing that this is a little wonky on, is it can never quite figure out whether this is a ghost that is just in the house or it is a demon that is possessing someone, because in periodically it goes through these situations and scenes where someone is possessed, but then there are also moments or you see the person not possessed, and then you see a manifestation of that person who is like an evil version of that person. So you can't quite tell, like, is this a ghost? Is this a demon that's possessing somebody? In the very beginning, it seems like it's all possession, but then as it goes on, everything just starts getting thrown out the window, and all of a sudden it's like ghosts are showing up and all this other things are happening. So that's something that is difficult to kind of nail down, and that makes this kind of complicated. Because of the actions of the brother priest, the demon curses the brother's family and says, I'm going to come get your family. So now we go to the family as they start to experience these ghostly things. You know, at first it seems like it's possession, where a member of the family is possessed and is doing wonky and uncomfortable things. And during this moment, it is a real uncomfortable movie. And it starts to go down a path where you're like, oh, this is going to get really interesting. But then as it gets a little further, it goes from the dad seeming kind of evil and walking around in the middle of the night and making weird comments to his daughter, to then all of a sudden immediately swinging a giant hammer at them and attacking them in the hallway. It really could have taken those moments of, is this dad, is this not dad, evil dad, whatever, and played with the idea of different family members getting possessed and them trying to figure this out and trying to work through this in some genuinely uncomfortable scenes. But almost immediately after the dad gets possessed and starts swinging a hammer around, the mom starts swinging a hammer around, and then before you know it, instantly they know that they are part of a demon in their home. And they just call their brother priest and like, hey, you got to come help us out. It really doesn't go down that path of them trying to put pieces together, figure it out. Like they figure it all out very, very quickly, and things get off the rails instantly, where there's a couple shocking kills or shocking moments in this movie that I was really surprised they went down that road. So, I mean, I guess kudos to them to having the guts to do some of these things, but it goes so far so fast that it really does kind of turn into a little bit more of a graphic novel style to it, as opposed to, it starts out like it's going to be a bit more of a creepy, grounded exorcism movie, but then it really launches off into, like I said, the closest thing is, I thought a lot about the movie Constantine, where it kind of has that feel to it, where it becomes more of, well, now the priest is just trying to save the family, and he's going to do all these things, and everything has just gone out the goddamn window. So, tough movie to recommend. I'd give it a C, because there are some things that are good about it, but it kind of goes off the rails a little too much for me. But let me know what you think.